That guy is gas station ready. This guy is press box ready. Is Ohio State Notre Dame ready? Welcome back to the Podcast Daily. It is Thursday morning, and that is Anthony Schlegel. I think last week probably felt a little better. Schlegs, we'll get to that. First, I got to know, everybody's dying to know, how are you going to watch this game on Saturday night?
I'll be watching it down here in Jacksonville, Florida with the family. We thought about, do we invite people over? Then we're like, no, because my youngest son is so into the games. Like, we don't want him to be like, he'll be like a roller coaster of emotion through the game. So we're like, no, we're just going to watch as a family. Plus, I watch it. I take notes. Like, I'm into the game. I wish I had like quick cuts. Like, I'm looking up stuff for his little football games, for junior high. Cause again, I'm the associate assistant quality control O-line, D-line linebackers for middle school football, along with strength coach for varsity baseball, along with training my daughter in cheer and all the other things that I do. I'm so busy. It's chaos, but yeah, I can't wait to watch this game. Notre Dame is special. It's special to me. When I grew up, I vividly remember my sisters scraping up money to send me to the Notre Dame football camp. Bob Davie was the head football coach at that time. I think I was a sophomore in high school. And, I always wanted to attend Notre Dame. So they sent me to that camp. I mean, it was awesome. And then in 2002, we played Notre Dame at Air Force.
Right.
And we both were 6-0. I think we were ranked top 15 in the country. I think they were ranked top 5, top 10. I had a game, and I had like 19 tackles. We ended up getting beat 21-14, 21-17, something like that. But, and then 2006, we played them in the Fiesta Bowl, and that was the Jersey game, right? And, AJ Sack and Brady Quinn, his future brother-in-law, and all these things. And it's just it's great that these blue bloods, these story programs can come together and meet at 7:30 at night on a Saturday. Pretty special.
Yeah, it is special. I'm really looking forward to it. I've never covered a game there, so this will be
awesome.
my first opportunity for that. It's hard. Actually, I've been covering college football for a long time. It takes a lot. You get kind of, I don't know, numb. I shouldn't say it that way. Like, I get to see them dot the I like 6 to 8 times a year. Like, I see special things in college football all the time. You get kind of numb to that over time, but this is one where like the hair stands up. You wake up the echoes, touchdown Jesus. I've never seen any of that stuff, and then to have these two programs going at it is going to be really cool. You have a special drink picked out for Saturday night. People are really interested to know how you watch the game, Schlegs. We're getting a lot of feedback about that.
Oh man, so I mean, if I'm watching it on Southwest, it's a double of wild turkey, and I got it. And I tell you what, I have a really hard time when I'm in there because like the end of the last game last week, I missed some of the bigger plays because I was trying to get the Wi-Fi, and I kept like turning my Wi-Fi on, going back to Southwest, going to Safari, but I used Chrome, and I was like going back and forth, and I couldn't watch. I'm just like losing my mind a little bit. But I calmed down, So that game in particular, just probably be Buffalo Trace and the Rocks. If we're really doing well, I might start off with some Colonel Taylor or some Eagle Rare to get it kicked off, and then migrate to Buffalo. But it will be good. And I will say this too. It's funny, like this week even, I was talking to some people, and I don't know if I coined this or I came up with it or I've heard it or somebody else probably did. But I mean, those moments, the things that you get to do, Austin, the things that we get to do with like my children, right? You got to live live. And it's crazy that people that are learning the English language are like live, live are the same word, just in different contexts.
Pronunciation, baby.
And it is. And I heard a great stat from somebody else. I heard from somebody else. But again, I have older kids. I have a sophomore and a junior in high school. I have a 6th grader. But the quote was this: by the time they're 18 years old, you have spent 90% of your time with your child. That's crazy talk to me.
Wow. Yeah.
So every time, I train those kids at 5:45 in the morning. I'm going to develop them all. Matter of fact, I just dropped a nugget on them, and I gave them the old school Jim Tressel goal sheet that I had that he gave us in 03, 04, and 05 when I was there. And I'm going to bring mine in. And part of that is you got to go talk to a teammate about it. for teammate accountability. I want you to talk to your parents about it. And then you're going to come back and you're going to talk to your coach about it. And we're going to hold you accountable to that. And if you need things that you need to work on, and I don't know, man, we had so many people in our lives that impacted us in a positive way. Like, that's why we're there. We got to live live in those moments, because you're never going to get it back. You're never going to get it back. So hey, every time you get to go out there and watch them dot the I, soak that in. I don't get to watch them dot the I.
Right.
But you know what? What you guys have done at the podcast, right? You love what you do, where you do it, and who you do it with.
That's
so
right.
Just continue to do that, man, and enjoy this Saturday for me, okay?
Absolutely will. I promise you that. And enjoyed last Saturday night or Saturday evening, however we want to put it. When your Wi-Fi was fully functioning, Schlegs, that was the kind of performance we talked about. You can't just wait for Notre Dame. You do need to ratchet up. That's Ryan Day's word. Crank up the intensity. How much did the Buckeyes need that before Saturday night to go out and do what they did to Western Kentucky?
I think they desperately needed it. I think it all started with Ryan's approach, and we discussed this prior to, you know, and I think sometimes us as fans and the success that they've had, we get lost in what they did lose, right? Especially on the offensive line. You have 3 guys that are playing on Sundays at a high level. Bringing those new guys in, one came through the portal, hasn't been there the entire time, is learning. But there's some things that we always expect. And for me, it's always physicality, it's violence, it's playing fast. And you saw some hesitation, but Ryan's approach that you saw over those 3 weeks was that they treated it as 3 preseason games. Mm-hmm. And once he planted the flag after the second game and announced Kyle McCord, and I saw this happen in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, where you had an alpha in Gardner Minshew, and then they ended up trading him. And now, you know, he was the guy, right, being Trevor. It just took on a different dynamic because his personality was very different than that of Gardner's. Gardner's was very vocal. He was an alpha. He was a hard worker. Trevor's a hard worker, but he's just unique in his own way. And so once he had that opportunity to be the guy, like it took off. Now he's getting more reps, and you know, you have that stability. And Brian Hartline, I think it was Brock Hurd was talking about it on the over the TV, just talking about the hurdles, because Brian ran hurdles and the timing that is associated with that, from a wide receiver, from a quarterback, being able to deliver the ball, you know, when it's you know, they're on time to them. That's all timing. So I think they got those reps. They needed this. And I think the defense needed it as well, because guys, let's face it, man, they've only given up 20 points. They outscored our offense in that game in the second half, 14-7. Like those are some good things. And the offense scored 28 points in 8 minutes, complimentary football. So there's a lot of really good takeaways from that game. And I think they needed that, though. That was a group of 5, but it was a complete performance by a Buckeye team in the shoe. And they played at the level that we expect them to play, which means this: when you have inferior competition, you go take them right away. Like they shouldn't be on the field. That's the expectation. And now in this game, both highly recruited teams, both ranked in the top 10. It's a matchup. Who's going to be the toughest? Who's going to be the most physical? Who's going to play with the most violence and execute at a higher level is going to win the game.
We talk, and you do all the time, Schlegs, about, you know, the importance of reps and repetition, doing things over and over. So Ohio State has won 3 games, but they didn't do them all the same. This was the first time that you looked at it, and those reps on Saturday were like clearly dominant from start to finish.
Yes.
So I would say, and I guess I'm asking, does it matter the level of competition if you are getting successful reps and learning and feeling what that is like? Now it's going to be more difficult maybe to execute that, but what's the mental value of doing something like Saturday and just disregarding even, all right, well, it was only Western Kentucky, like setting that aside. What's the value of those reps?
Think about the difference right now you guys saw with Alabama, you know, and then they played USF, right? And there's a rain delay and the quarterbacks didn't really perform very well. And then you have that performance. Now you're going to go and you're going to play Ole Miss top 15 matchup back at your house with the number 1 quarterback that they had in the first game, the first 2 games, now back in this 4th game. Very different than what we're talking about. We're talking about our guys are going in there on the high. The timing is there. The reps that they're getting as practice in there are there. Mm-hmm. So, but they also played a good Indiana team. Now, Indiana got beat by Louisville, played them tough, but they play good defense. I'm not necessarily saying about the offense, but they play good defense. And so you've had now 3 games where you're starting to mesh, you're starting to come together, and it's all about timing. So now the season starts, and you carry that into this Notre Dame game. So I'm excited to watch it happen. And I will say this too, and I'm going to go a little bit on the defensive side. What I loved about the defense was, I don't think Steele gives enough credit for being a really good open field tackler. Because you got CJ Hicks out there, right? In the weeds, the top 5 guy. Like, why isn't he playing? Because Steele is really good at his job, and CJ will get his chance. Mm-hmm. But Steele has been playing really, really well. And I also think that it's taken a little bit of time for Coach Knowles, Jim Knowles, to see like what it is that you got. And he's a big man guy and a pressure guy. I don't necessarily like looping blitzes in man. I like the ones that are right directly into the face of the quarterback. Because when they loop, especially a veteran guy, if you don't play it perfect, right, there's going to be openings because they're going to know what my man beaters are.
Right.
And we saw that again, in this game, it's okay if you do that versus Western Kentucky when it's 3rd and 10 and you bring 6 and they get 17. Now, part of that was an execution breakdown. Okay, Proctor was looking at a guy in the backfield. That was his man. He's in there. He has to pack it back. He's the rat player now and should have picked up that guy coming inside because I think it was Hancock, I believe, was playing off of him, and he had Proctor being the inside leverage of that guy. So that's a little bit of execution on his standpoint, but it's also, hey, if you play zone there, give them 9, we get off the field in 3rd down. You see those things. Then you also saw Steele in zone coverage on the sideline, reroute a guy, expanded to the flat, made a pick on the sideline. So you're starting to figure out like what works, what do our guys do really well. And in that game, they had 2 tackles, 8 TFL, 6 PDUs, and 2 picks.
It's a lot of production, Schlegs.
And hey, 2 touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? So and the other thing too was guys were flying around the football. There was multiple times where you saw 5 or 6 hats around the ball. Silver bullet defense, regardless of who you play, the standard is the standard. Everybody sees that. And I heard somebody on Instagram or Twitter was talking about, well, the players have to be held accountable. It's why do I get on coaches so much more than players? Well, one, a lot of people that want to ridicule players never played. Okay, so how would you like it if I came in there and just ridiculed you about your really terrible, PowerPoint or your strategic plan in marketing or sales or whatever? Nobody's doing that, right? But in their room, power of the unit, that's when the standard is the standard. Okay, so it's on the coach to uphold that. It's on the coach to teach and educate. It's on the power of the unit in the room to make sure that they're held accountable, not for us necessarily as fans. That's why, so everybody knows, that's why I get on. But I like the way our defense is playing and flying around, and it bodes well going into this game. Though WKU is not a run team, you're going to get a heavy dose of run. And I will say this too. I know I'm preluding the difference maker of the game, but this for Tommy is a Buckeyes type game for him. You have a 6', 233-pound running back. You have an offensive line that has been there, that is very talented. They are movers. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think you got more to say about linebacker play for a matchup like Ohio State Notre Dame. We'll get to that. Is there anything, Schlegs? It feels like nitpicking when it's 63-10. Yeah. Is there anything that you still feel, I don't know, uncertain about? Something that you still want to see proven on Saturday or that needs to be against Notre Dame?
I would say the inside run. So we saw this in the last game, stretch into the boundary. When you're on the difference between college and high school and the pros are the hashes. The hashes are narrower in the pros. Okay. They're wider in college. When that ball is on the hash, it's hard to run stretch or outside zone into the boundary. It's because Henderson's fast, right? Like, you saw when the ball was somewhat in the middle of the field, closer to the hash, he still was able to bounce it outside and utilize his speed. As you start to shrink that to the boundary, it's a lot easier for those guys to get over because they're all fast. So to be able to set up some of that outside runs, the inside run game really has to be well. And so you're going to see that. That's the one thing that I'm not necessarily concerned about it, but I'm going to be looking at it because the inside run game, you saw Chip, 1-hit home run, right? Boom, inside run. You saw some of those 7-8 yard gains. That sets up the outside. Then they're like, all right, we got to start packing it in. Boom, Now I can hit him on the outside with speed. Some of the cross movement, you have Cade blocking backside, running stretch to the left. Like, all right, eye discipline from the linebackers. Oh, I got to go over here. Boom. Now I can beat him with speed on the outside. But the inside run game sets a lot of that up and also sets up the perimeter passing game. So I want to see that in this, but that goes to the physicality from our offensive line. So you didn't really get to see that because of the competition of WKU, but it will have to happen in this Notre Dame game.
It's kind of fun to see this transpiring a little bit with Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside. I don't think Ryan Day wants to go that far, or Tony Alford. Like, Chip Trainum, man, you want somebody to get between the tackles and run that inside stuff. He is an absolute load. And as you said, if you've got room to get to the edge on the outside, Travion Henderson is going to run away from most people. I mean, you want to be able, I think they could both do both things if they asked them to, but I think it'll be interesting for me to see how Ohio State manages that workload moving forward, because both guys have skills and traits that make them maybe more suited for one over the other. And they're both some of the best running backs in the country at this point, the way that they're playing. Right.
You can't forget about Mayan, right? So he's there as well.
Absolutely.
But I think what Chip does is out of the backfield, he presents a threat. So, if you got to take a Cade off the field and go 3 receivers, 2 backs, or you keep Cade on, go 2 backs, and you got a Mecca and Marvin there, it just opens up a different type of package because, all right, because Chip can lead block. Like I said, he's that Kyle Yurcik guy, right, that they have in San Francisco that can do a lot of things. He's a better runner, obviously, than Kyle, but he can do those things, which that's a package that they have to game plan for. So how they use them, I don't know. I guarantee you there are certain things in their toolbox on his call sheet that he's never broken out. You're going to see some of those in this game because why not? But that being said, it's, this Notre Dame defense is really good. I mean, guys, they've had, I'll go down. I'm looking at my sheet here. Okay. Let me see.
I've got one for you, Schlegs.
No, 5 picks, 7 forced fumbles, 6 sacks.
I was going to throw this one at you to get to your point.
Good. Hit me.
Ohio State is number 2 in the country in yards per play allowed on defense. Number 3 is Notre Dame. These are 2 good defenses.
Yep. No doubt, man. No doubt. And for a defensive guy, this is what you want to see. And if you go down and you look at last year's game, it was, first off, first-year head coach, Ohio State 21-10. Remember, we were down 10-7 at the half, and then we went on a 14-0 run in the second half. Our physicality up front won the second half of that game.
Right.
But they had Tyler Buckner. They didn't have Sam Hartman. That's the difference in this. You have really big possession-type receivers. Here's the thing. You also have really big back-end defensive backs that I know are more athletic than them. So I'm comfortable in the way that they've played in the secondary. That's a compliment to, Walt and Ilano, right? I mean, their coverage is significantly better. Denzel Burke is playing lights out, caused that fumble that was a touchdown. I mean, he's flying around. The guys are playing and they're healthy. That's what you want to see going into a big matchup like this. But again, Sam Hartman is the difference maker from last year's game to this year's game. However, when you make him one-dimensional because you're stopping the run, right now, that's when those other guys can eat, and you have to play a little bit of zone coverage, making it more difficult, allowing that 4-man rush to get there, sprinkle in a little bit of man with some pressure, and off you go. But it still is going to come down to the front 7 on both sides of the football.
All right, Schlegs. Well, you teased one. Hit me with the difference makers for Ohio State on Saturday night.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I mean, it's hard because it really is the linebacker play because I'm a linebacker, right? And I look at Tommy as, one of the best linebackers in the country. And Steele has really proved that last game, man. Steele had a day now. But for me, the difference makers are going to be, Tyleek and Michael Hall and Ty Hamilton, like those interior guys are going to be they're going to be the difference maker because they're going to want to run the ball inside the tackles. And that's when you're a linebacker and you're a D lineman in this type of game, like this is, every time I go out, I got a show out, right? Juicy J, man, true. So this is your game, guys. And the beautiful thing is, honestly, if I'm a linebacker, I'm like, dude, I got 3 teams this year that are high profile teams that we get to go play to like make my mark. And that's Notre Dame. That's Penn State because they rush the football, and that's Michigan. Like, let's go, right? Like, I can't wait for those. Who wants to play Purdue where they just sling it, or WKU? Terrible. Tommy Steele had 10 tackles. I think Steele still had 8 tackles in that game. But this game's going to come down to toughness, stopping the run. And if they do that and put them behind the chains for 3rd and long, so 3rd and 7 plus, right? That takes away 70% of the offense. It's harder. Ohio State won that game last year. Notre Dame was 3 of 13 on 3rd down. Ohio State was 7 of 13 on 3rd down. And in the way the clock is now in college football, that's possessions.
Right.
That's what you got to have. So we got to get them to 3rd and long, and that's going to change the dynamic of this game. But it starts up front with those D tackles and those linebackers.
Mike Hall sort of had his coming out party against the same Notre Dame team a year ago. So
He
looking
did.
in the tackles trenches, and obviously the Ohio State offensive line has to show up. I think that's, if you're looking at the other side of the ball for difference makers, this is it. I mean, as you said, Notre Dame can play a little defense too. So Josh Simmons, Josh Fryer, Carson Hensman, this is it. The first 3 games were that preseason for this.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, you heard Coach Fry talk about violence and physicality. I've been saying it for a long time, but that's a mindset, and you have to practice that way. Iron sharpens iron. Like, inside drill is that, and so that's what they want to see. I think we're starting to see that. I'm anxious to watch them get to the 2nd level because they got Kaiser and I like Louis. I don't know how you say his last name. Like,
I don't know how to say it either. I'm not
but
going to learn
anyways,
by Saturday.
guess what? Veteran, really good linebackers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those guys are going to be trying to make plays. So how do we secure those blocks to get to the 2nd level is really going to open up that inside run game. So they got to be a difference maker. And then I'm going to say this, like Bobby asked a question on our show, Bobby Carpenter's show. It's like, if I had one guy to pick who's going to make a touchdown, it's going to be a Mecca. And I said that because you watching that game, like they were kind of bracketing Marvin. Listen, man, when you see a corner and a safety at the same level with Marvin, that's a bad deal. That's a 71-yard touchdown, okay? Marcus is a defensive-minded guy.
Yeah.
He's going to eliminate the guy that, like, I am not going to allow him to beat me. That's going to be – so they're going to bracket him, which is going to free up a Mecca. It's going to free up Cade. That little 5-yard in that you saw Cade on that long over, boom. He set him up with a nod, threw it to him, right? Boom. He's up to the boundary. He's faster than you think. You know what I mean? Farmer Gronk is, right? That was 40 yards plus, wheel route to a Mecca. Marvin was on the same. I don't know if it was Marvin. I don't remember. But that was a great play call. He brought him in, right? They went in, and then boom, wheel route, dime from I think, no, that was Carnell Tate on that one. But anyways, Kyle McCord hit him. But it's still 22 seconds, right? 40 yards and 22 yards. Let's go. So I know I'm all over the place in that, but
it's because you're juiced up. This is a huge matchup.
I am, man.
Legs.
It's a huge matchup. I'm excited. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, we're almost there. And getting the podcast daily on a Thursday morning with Schlegs in the bank means that we're one day closer. Can't wait for it. Appreciate, as always, Schlegs giving us some time to get ready. It again doesn't need any more hype than we already are putting onto it. Ohio State, Notre Dame. That's all that needs to be said.
Yep, let's go.
Thanks. Yeah, let's get it on. That's Schlegs. I'm Austin. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. We'll talk to you later.